Wait, what? Why? Seriously, where's the fair use? Hey guys, as you can see, most of my videos are copyright claims, which is super annoying, but at least you guys still get to see them. Not so for my analysis of Mulholland Drive. For some reason, it's banned in every country other than the United States, which is funny because I don't even live in the United States. So if you're in the US, you can watch the original video here, and if you're anywhere else without a VPN, keep watching this video, which is the exact same analysis except I had to get rid of the offending part. What did the studio deem to be the offending part? This scene where the two women are kissing on the couch. I find this so funny because I'd understand if it was violating community guidelines or something, but it's not. It's just that that scene is somehow more copyrighted than any other scene. Alright, without further ado, here's the video. I watched Mulholland Drive 8 years ago and couldn't shake the feeling ever since. You know, of being utterly confused yet completely fascinated by the characters, as if I've known the story my entire life.
Usually there's 3 acts. Most things. There's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And I don't really go by that.
When talking about Mulholland Drive, I feel that most people tend to see most of the film as a fantasy that takes place in Diane Selwyn's mind, and the ending of the film as the reality. And while that's certainly not untrue, instead of the dichotomy between fantasy and reality, I prefer to see the film as a dichotomy between fantasy and desire. It sounds like a subtle difference, but both fantasy and desire are lenses through which we distort the objective reality, which is actually inaccessible, and is represented by the blue box. The blue box opens up a void. It is both the barrier between the world of fantasy and the world of desire, and also the portal that connects the two worlds. Notice that during the fantasy portion of the film, many scenes are devoted solely to developing minor characters, but in the desire portion of the film, every single scene has Camila in it, even when she's not physically there. Take this scene, for example.
You've come back.
Camila, or rather the idea of Camila, constantly intrudes upon the scene, whether it be as a desire, a masturbatory fantasy, a phone call, or as a photo. Diane obviously wants Camila, but she can't have her because Camila is already engaged to the director, Adam Kesher. Psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan states that unrequited desire is somewhat of a redundant term, as desire by definition is unfulfilled, because you can't want something that you already have.
We don't really want to get what we think that we want.
Since we can never have everything at once, we're constantly stuck in the world of desire, where our desires constantly intrude upon our reality and colors it. Notice how the mug of coffee inexplicably becomes a glass of bourbon or something, and the robe becomes denim shorts. There's also the piano ashtray on the table, which has already been taken away in the previous scene. In the world of desire, there is no chronology, as all the events, instead of following in a logical order, seem to revolve around the object of desire.
It's not day or night. It's kind of half night, you know?
So basically, it's this quagmire of repetition that can only be escaped through fantasy. Did your girlfriend leave you for someone else? Make him a punching bag. A literal punching bag. Feel bad for hiring a hitman to kill her? It's okay. He's such a klutz he probably messed it up anyway. Sad that you didn't get the lead part? Well, the director was forced to choose someone else. Didn't like the taste in your mouth when you found out the love of your life is gonna marry someone else? There's even an explanation for that. Actually, the fantasy portion of the film unfolds like a classic mystery, in which you can piece together the puzzle. It also plays with genre conventions of drama, romance, slapstick comedy, thriller, and even horror. Basically, it's Hollywood. The only thing we don't have is science fiction. There's even a Western element, because why not? Whereas the last part of the film is much more ambiguous, just like life. I think this is really quite innovative because when we think of fantasy or dream sequences, we think of fog machines and surrealism, of strange jump cuts and things that don't make sense. But really, this is closer to our experience of reality, muddled by desire. Things don't always make sense in life, and we don't always know why people do what they do. The version of reality that comes in a neat little package with all the loose ends tied up is a fantasy we constantly tell ourselves to make sense of the senseless reality.
Cinema is the ultimate pervert art. It doesn't give you what you desire. It tells you how to desire.
While Hollywood and fantasy is relieving us from the agony of desire, there's a problem. Its linear structure means that by definition, there's an endpoint. The endpoint of any fantasy is obtaining the object of desire, which simultaneously satisfies and destroys the fantasy. Right after Diane finally has sex with Camila, they go to Club Silencio, which shatters the illusion of the fantasy and plunges Diane through reality right back into the frustrating, repetitive world of desire.
Hey, pretty girl. Time to wake up.
Objective reality here is dark and inaccessible, as represented by the void in the blue box.
When it's finished, you'll find this where I told you.
What's it open?
In pop culture, as well as in psychology, there's a persistent idea that you need someone else to be complete.
You? Complete me.
Some have theorized that this stems from the traumatic act of birth, when the infant is separated from the mother.
It's time to say goodbye, Betty.
Which might thematically explain the creepy old couple in the beginning of the film. Lacan states that in the mirror stage of an infant's development, the infant experiences a disorientating chasm when confronted with their reflection. There is a contrast between the wholeness of their mirror image and their limited command of their motor control faculties that leave them feeling like disjointed body parts. And for the rest of their lives, they strive to achieve this image of wholeness, often by obtaining an object of desire. So, the cause of desire is not connected to the object of desire, but rather it stems from an inherent lack within the subject. The desire for the other is the desire to fuse with an object of desire to become whole, but this is an impossible dream. And this is the illusion that Club Silencio breaks.
Silencio. Silencio.
If we take the image, the singer, the musician, to be the object, and the sound, meaning the music, the vocals, to be the beckoning voice of desire itself, Club Silencio shows us that the two are actually not related. I think this is why suddenly Spanish and French are introduced, to further drive home the idea that three different phonetic sounds can all refer to the same object.
No hay banda. There is no band. Il n'est pas d'orchestra. This is all a tape recording.
In the Club Silencio song Llorando, the singer laments the loss of a lover, but this loss is an illusion because one never has another person in the first place. But saying goodbye to a loved one can feel like saying goodbye to a part of oneself, because of this illusion of fusion. Their seeming inseparability is an illusion, and the desire lives on long after the object of desire is destroyed, which is precisely the lesson Diane comes to learn. Camila cuts Diane off just before the moment of this supposed fusion.
We shouldn't do this anymore.
Don't ever say that.
She decides to hire a hitman to kill Camila. In the beginning of the film, the creepy mafia guy calls someone to tell him this.
The girl is still missing.
And he calls someone else. But nobody answers. That someone else is actually Diane, as this red lampshade belongs in Diane's apartment. It's such a quick detail that people often miss it upon first viewing. Obviously, this conveys Diane's subconscious wish for Camila to have somehow escaped, but it also drives home the point that, dead or alive, the girl is always missing, meaning that one always feels like something is missing.
What you want is not really to live with the mistress, but to keep her as a distance, as an object of desire about which you dream.
It can be hard to tell the difference between the other with a capital O and the other with a small o. The latter is not quite a separate individual, but rather a projection of the subject. Unable to tame Camila, Diane projects all her lacks onto the image of Camila, who is conveniently a blank slate due to her amnesia, and is thus susceptible to Diane's molding.
Or if it is Diane Selwyn, she could tell you who you are.
Of course, this murder solves nothing because the cause of desire is outside of the object of desire. The hitman laughs because the key opens up nothing. It solves nothing. There is no solution for desire. We must instead recognize that external objects are unable to satisfy the desire because its cause is within us, and we have to come to terms with desire as a permanent feature of the human condition. At least, that's my analysis.
Since it's complete, in my mind, nothing should be talked about more. And it's a very big shame when something is finished and then people want you to translate it back into words.
Okay. As always, thank you for watching.